Hello friends, I'm back a little bit. If you watched my last video, you know that I've had a bit of a tough summer, and it's not really getting a lot easier. But on the other hand, I have found a way, I don't know how, to be honest with you, but I have found a way to continue to find joy and to appreciate the gifts that I have been given. And enjoying my fiber arts has really helped me to cope with a lot of the pain, grief, worry, and other negative, what many people would consider negative things going on in my life right now. And I don't mean this in a Pollyanna, toxic positivity way. I mean it in a just do it, Nike kind of way. And maybe that might be the best way to explain it. But it's showing me that attitude and gratitude, an attitude of gratitude perhaps, is really important to get us through these tough times. And I know I am not alone in my tough times. Many of us, especially here in the United States, but I think across the world, are experiencing a time of uncertainty and worry and fear in some cases. And if we allow those feelings and those experiences to overwhelm us and take control, it's really hard to get out of them. And so I have chosen, and it is a choice, to not ignore them, but to find positive ways to find joy and to work through them and to put that energy into something productive and something beautiful and many things that bring me joy. So I want to share some of that with you today if you're also struggling. And also just kind of share some more of what's going on in my life. Now, in my last video, I shared this beautiful quilt with you. And if you didn't see that video, I'll briefly explain where this quilt came from, its origin story, if you will. This beautiful quilt, and it is full to queen size quilt, is a vintage antique quilt. And it was a antique quilt top that I found in a antique store in western Illinois near the Mississippi River, probably about 20 to 25 years ago, very beginning of the 2000s. And at that time, I would find these antique quilt tops in these stores and rescue them, for lack of any better term, because I just love the handwork in them. I love the colors in them. I love the fabrics in them. And my mother was a prolific hand quilter, and I would take them to her and she would hand quilt them for me. And the others that I have that she did for me were much smaller quilts. They were either maybe twin size or cot size quilts, crib size, lap quilt type thing. This is the only large bed size quilt that I ever found. And she had started quilting this for me, and what she did is probably 85% of this quilt. And then it just sat. We all have, no matter how prolific we are, we all have unfinished projects, right? And then it kind of went missing. She put it away somewhere, and I wasn't sure in the house where it was. Long story short, being up there this summer, because of my dad's illness and subsequent passing away, the family and I, siblings and I, have begun the process of trying to figure out the next steps in cleaning out their farmhouse, because Mom has been in a memory care facility, gosh, is it a year and a half now, perhaps? And her abilities to do anything like this are sadly gone. And my sister found this quilt, and I was able to bring it back and continue its rescue efforts. And so I have been slowly quilting on it again for a while, and it has become my therapy as I work through these tough times. And so I wanted to share a little bit of that with you. And if you are not a hand quilter, now I have over the course of this my YouTube channel have shared a lot of my handwork with you, and I enjoy handwork a lot, and it has been my therapy for a while, and there's many reasons why. But hand quilting has never been something that I have found myself particularly gifted in. I remember Mom teaching me how to do it many years ago, and you know, I do have another quilt that I have hand quilted myself, and it was probably 30 years ago, because it was a twin size quilt that I made for my oldest daughter when she moved from her crib to her big girl bed. So it might be, yeah, probably close to 30 years ago. And so, but after finishing that, I said, I'm never going to quilt again, hand quilt again. I was big into my fancy sewing machines and just went deep into the, what can I do with this fancy machine? And just kind of let all handwork go away. And while I still love to do that, and I love all the capabilities of my machines, I'd forgotten what needle and thread between my fingers can do for me. Anyhow, if you don't practice something regularly, you can lose the skill, the muscle memory of it, but it's always still there in my experience. Another thing about me is that when I dive deep back into something or into something for the first time, I want all the gadgets. I want all the tricks. I want to know how to do it better. And I think many of us are like that. So with this, I was like, I'm struggling. How can I make this better? So obviously you're here on YouTube watching me do this, so you understand the benefits of YouTube University. And there are a lot of hand quilters on YouTube here. So I did a little bit of a deep dive and found a few. And if I can find their videos again, I'll link them in the description below. On the biggest problem I was having was my non-dominant hand, my left hand here. I was pricking the daylights out of my finger, trying to feel that needle coming down from the top and getting it to rock back up to the top, coming down to the bottom, feeling it when it came through, and then using that to help assist the rock back up. And I used to watch my mom sit there and quilt, and her rocking stitch was just push through, and I didn't know how she did it. Now, I still don't know how she did it, and sadly, I can't ask her. I can't take this to her and go, Mom, can you show me again how you did that? So if you have someone like my mother in your life who has a talent and a gift like that and years and years and years of knowledge, you have a gold mine. A gold mine, there's no D, a gold mine of knowledge there at your fingertips. So don't lose that opportunity, because I feel like I have lost that opportunity. I cried through my last video, and I'm trying really hard not to cry through this one. So please forgive me if I lose that battle. Anyway, back to reteaching myself how to hand quilt. So one of the things that I tried a thimble, and I have a thimble on, I'm going to show you all my fingers, or most of my fingers, so that I don't make an obscene gesture. I have, of course, gone back to using a thimble on my dominant hand for this, because I don't think you really can properly hand quilt without it. And it just so happens that this thimble is one of my mom's thimbles, and she has had quite a collection. So let me show you the first gift. Well, the second gift, because the quilt itself was a big gift, was this work basket. And much like this quilt that came from me to her, this came from me to her many years ago, and it sat in her living room with all of her quilting things in it. Now this little basket is mine. I'm not going to go through everything that was in here, but it was a little basket full of goodies. And one of the things in here, where did it go? I just had it. It's this little film canister. And in it was her thimble and a couple threaded needles. And I'm trying to think if there was something else in here. I guess that was it. Yes, needles and her thimble. And I was just like, oh, I can literally hold in my hand her tools and use them to finish this quilt. And maybe some of her talent will flow genetically through me and also mechanically through me using her tools. I may be a little over sentimental, but hey, that's what this is all about. So I started doing that, but again, I was still struggling with my lower finger, and I tried Band-Aids, I tried another thimble, but using a different thimbles, have the bumps and the ridges and the things like that, and everybody needs to find their own thimble. There was another thimble somewhere of hers that was so tiny it barely fit on my pinky finger. Now my hands are much bigger than my mother's, so that's probably why. But happily this one fit. Now, watching a few other stitchers on YouTube and elsewhere, I discovered a couple other things. One is this little thumb ring. Well, I wear it on my thumb. That is a thread cutter. And I had wanted one of these for a while. And this one is just from Clover. And it has a little, let me see if I can get it on the camera, little hooky thing with a blade on it to just cut thread. If you ever want to see like older women who use their teeth, my teeth have enough problems already. They don't need a groove in them from snapping yarn. So this, or thread, I've used this quite a bit, and I really, really love it, because then I don't really have to stop and find my snippers as I'm working. But yesterday, oh boy, I've already got scratches on it. Well, before yesterday, this one video, she said that a lot of people use a spoon on their left hand, well, if you're right-handed, on their non-dominant hand underneath, so that when the needle, where's my needle? Oops, gotta get it in here right. When your needle comes down through the top, and I can't, do, and being pushed with your thimble hand, it hits the top of the spoon, and then you rock it back, and you can kind of deflect it off the top of the spoon and get it to come back up where you want it. And then you move the spoon and you rock, and you kind of get a coordinated movement. That was working well. But as you can see, then you have this handle of the spoon, and I work in my lap because I don't have a quilter's frame. I work in my lap with a hoop. I also tend to work sitting at on the couch, so I don't even have like a tabletop to prop the front of the hoop on. Now when I'm working in here, I can prop it on my table and almost have like a little better ergonomics. Well, this was working, but this kept hitting my lap as I was trying to kind of get the coordination. Sometimes it worked better than other times. Anyway, so this was working well, and I was thinking, well, maybe I could cut the handle off I have lots of tools I could get, although I'm guessing this particular spoon has got a pretty thick handle. So maybe I could go to Goodwill or something and buy like a really cheap, thinner spoon, cut the handle off, and maybe even curl the handle so that, you know, I'd have a place sort of for maybe my ring finger or something to go in. I don't know. I was sitting there considering it, and I was like, how am I going to do? I've got to make a better tool. And they do make tools for this, but I'm on a pretty strict budget right now, and spending more money other than like the $5 or whatever for the little thread cutter ring is out of my budget right now. So I was making it work, like my ancestors, to find what works for you. And it's interesting because I've already scratched up the tip of it with my needle, which means I'm probably dulling my needle, but I have plenty of packs of betweens to use to replace this needle. I've actually already had to replace one needle in this project because I bent it. Anyway, this was working. Yesterday, I went over to Black Belt Treasures in Camden, Alabama. So if you ever visit Gee's Bend or Selma or this area of Alabama, I highly recommend you go in there and, you know, buy some of my things that I have there. But that's what I was going there for, and was to deliver some more handmade items and for fall, and, you know, kind of replenish my stock there. And while I was there, they had a display of jewelry made from old spoons, silver spoons and other things. And unfortunately, oh shoot, it's in the other room. I will put the name of the artist that makes these and all that information either on the screen here or in the description below of this artist, because I can't remember his name, but it's an older gentleman. Anyway, I went through his display and I found a thing of these, I'm trying to get it off my wrist, necklaces made from silver spoons. And you can see here, it's a very pretty pattern of silver spoon. But this one was, they had different ones. This one was perfect because it fit in my thumb perfectly, and it was smooth on the back side. And because there were some that were kind of scalloped, and that wasn't going to work for me. And I just loved the pretty pattern that was on it, and it was on a chain. And I was thinking, well, it could be like a chatelaine. I could wear it around my neck and grab it, but then it's too short. I can't get underneath. So right now, I am putting it on my wrist, kind of doubling it, and it's just the right thing. And because that was the other thing that was happening with the kitchen spoon, was that when I did have to bring my hand up to the top to knot off or rethread my needle or something, I put the spoon down underneath, and then I'd have to search for it. It'd get in the crack of the sofa, it'd fall off my lap, it'd get caught in the folds of the quilt as I was rearranging the quilt. And so half the time I was struggling just to find the spoon again. Well, this way, I don't lose the spoon. It's right there. For now, this is working beautifully. And I have been, just last night, just because it's silver, that is the only, might end up being a problem, is that this is real silverware. So it's a little softer than your stainless steel flatware that, you know, you would get now. Although I have managed to scratch up the back of even this spoon. This, I just one night's worth of stitching, I have managed to make some scratches. But it doesn't matter. If it becomes rough, I can get out some fine emery or sandpaper and smooth off any rough edges. That's what I'm thinking. Anyhow, this has been working beautifully. So let me move the camera, try to move the camera in a way that you'll be able to see, and I'll show you how this works. Ergonomics of this is going to be really, really terrible, I'm afraid. Okay, I'm going to start my thread on this side and pop the knot. Oh, I popped it too hard. It came all the way through. There we go. Okay, I have my thread ready to go in this hand, and I have this, oh, come on my thumb, like this, I'm gonna kind of hold it against here. Can you see what and then it's gonna, the needle is here, and I'm gonna, oops. I'm not getting as tiny of stitches as I normally would, but there we go. I hope you can see this. Let me move you again. One moment. I think this might be a better angle. Okay, so I have my thread on the top. I have my, now I can't see from over here very well the way I'm holding this, but I'm pressing, I'm moving it forward, I'm rocking down, hitting that, pressing, moving down, and there we go. Nice little line of stitches. Okay, back to try to show you from the top side without bumping the camera and without getting too many shadows in the way. Okay, so here's my line of stitching, and I'm very hunched over, so this is not a good angle for me. So you can see the ridge of the edge of the spoon. I'm coming up. I'm going to move that ridge down, go back down, come up, move that ridge down, come back up. There, that's pretty good. Now my underhand right now, because I'm sitting, is pretty much resting right on my knee. And that's why having a regular spoon with a handle under there isn't going to work as well. So I think, you tell me, are my stitches good enough to pass? Oops, see, now I pushed that too far, so. They're still not as they're getting small enough to match my mother's, but I don't know that they're consistent enough. Now I'm getting at a weird angle. There we go. I had counted, my mother had about an average of 6 stitches per inch, and most of these squares are an inch square. There's a little fudge factor on a lot of them because of these old quilt blocks are not perfectly square or perfectly whatever measurement they're supposed to be. So even her marking, there's some that are a little off, a little bigger, a little smaller. But we're gonna say they're approximately an inch. And hers, I counted and kind of did an average or about 6-ish stitches per square. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have, and that's a pretty consistent section there. Yeah, I think I've done a pretty good job of getting close to her stitching quality. Not, I don't know, but I have some bigger stitches and smaller stitches in some areas. I'm going to be honest with you. So see, now I have to bring this hand up, and I would drop the spoon every time I did that, and that caused a problem for me. So knot that off, and stick that back through, and it's not going through the back side, it's just going through the top, and then pull and cut. I kind of did a lazy man's thread here. It's a little long, especially for the strip of quilting I had to do there, but you know, do what you gotta do. All right. Fortunately also for me, for the most part, again, I'm not going all the way through to the back here because I'm trying to bury my knot. And then I just pop it in so it disappears. Most of the quilt was already marked when I found it. There's a few lines I've had to mark. The biggest issue I had were these little motifs in each corner of the block, these little heart motifs. Some of them weren't marked, and I could not find a stencil in this pattern or in her stuff. Now, we haven't gone through all of her stuff. It might be there somewhere, but I wanted to get working on this. So I did the best I could with what I had, and I took a piece of vellum paper and traced over one of the existing ones, and then I cut it with an X-Acto knife and made a little stencil with it, and cut like a double line to it's not perfect, it's not symmetrical, it's a little wibbly wobbly wonky, but everything about this quilt's a little wibbly wobbly wonky. And I'm not entering this any state fairs or quilt shows. I want to work on it to connect with my mother and to get it finished, and I'm not going to worry too much about perfection. So then I had this, and I cut it in such a way that these corners here match up with the corners of the block, so it's spaced pretty evenly. That one's a little off, I noticed, but it's already stitched, so it's going to stay when I went to place it. And again, it's close enough for who it's for, and it's for me. So let's pull this thread through. Anyhow, I'm going to continue to stitch and have you watch me stitch, because I'm not feeling very photogenic today anyway. Just talk to you more. I don't know how much people care. Well, okay. How have I been able to get through these rough times that I'm experiencing right now? Processing my grief, processing my worries, processing my fears for the future. And one of those ways is because I am surrounded by people who care. And have really been there for me at this time in my life. I don't think this line is particularly straight, but again, I'm not going to worry about it. And that helps. A support system helps. Now you might think, but Beth, I don't have one. I'm alone. I'm far away from my family. Or I'm estranged from my family, or I live somewhere where I just don't know my neighbors. I don't have that. Well, I understand. I live alone. I live far away from, my people, and all my people, my family, my old friends. But I am fortunate that I am not estranged from my family of birth. I'm also fortunate that since moving here, I have made connections, and I have made found a community around me that loves me and supports me. And that has been crucial for my survival in many, many ways. My mental health, my physical well-being, my feeling of safety, and many other things. And I'm speaking from my own life, my own experiences, what has worked for me. And if this isn't where you find yourself right now, then oh shoot. Okay, see, sometimes you have to pull out what you just did. As perfect as it is, just see this line and that line, I went off. There were 2 lines in my defense, but I wasn't paying attention. So anyhow, I'm going to back to about here. Try to remove my stitches. Guess I'm going to do it a few at a time. Anyhow, so here's another, I guess, a little life lesson. Sometimes your path goes off a little bit, and you have to go back and go back to where you know that you went off trail, you lost focus, and just go back. There's no harm. You don't have to go all the way back to the beginning necessarily. Sometimes you just need to go back, look at the situation, and go back to where you went off course. I could go back a little further, but I'm going to go right here. Anyhow, what was I saying? I was saying I was making some qualifiers, because I know I have been in the situation where somebody, you know, is trying to give advice or trying to give, oh, see, now that's really wonky, but again, when it's on my bed, I'm not going to be looking at that one row that's a little crooked. And I have felt defeated myself, like, well, great, that works for you, but I don't have XYZ, I don't have those people, I am coping with depression, or, you know, whatever thing that is, I can't see beyond, and I can't get beyond. And I understand that, and I am not about to say, just get over it, pull up yourself up by your bootstraps, all that, those little idioms and things that don't work for everybody. So I'm going to tell you what's has worked for me, and maybe you can get something out of it now or in the future, or maybe even give yourself some different perspective on a situation from your past. I don't know, but I just wanted to qualify that. I don't want anyone to feel less than or discouraged if you can't find your way through right now. But know that there's always some kind of way through. I think I have a little knot there. Yes. All right, I'm getting very close to my hoop, and I'm not going to move my hoop until I have this whole section finished. Okay, so all the qualifiers and things, I think, disclaimers have been said. But how am I managing through this? And even though I am alone and living somewhere that, you know, is, I wouldn't say completely foreign to me, but, you know, I don't have family around, but I do have friends. But I've only been here for a little over 3 years. And I have lived other places for longer than 3 years. Just a little bit. If I do this light, yeah. That I didn't feel as supported and didn't feel as part of the community as I have here. So that might just be a matter of I chose well or got lucky moving to Alabama. I will tell you, people in Alabama are kinder and friendlier than maybe they have historically been given credit for. I don't know. Southern hospitality is a thing. There we go. But I know I wouldn't be where I am now with the friends that I have now and the support system I have now here if I hadn't put myself out there to find them. Sitting around in my living room, as much as I enjoy doing that, keeping to myself, only talking to, you know, my old friends elsewhere in the world. I'm going at a different angle, and sometimes it takes me a minute to get the rhythm down, and I'm off my line already, but it's kind of hard to see it here. But when I first moved here, and when I first moved to Tennessee back in 2016, I did the same thing. Now, it was different ways there than it was here. But if there's community events, if there's just opportunities to get out and meet people. Now, I did know a few people, and fortunately, the few people that I had met prior to moving here are community, I don't know, movers and shakers maybe. They're really involved in the city and the arts community here, and through them I have found more like-minded people. So that's a benefit. I don't know. Finding joy and expressing gratitude, I think, is fundamental to your mental health and to surviving these tough times. And sometimes it's a struggle. I mean, when you're really going through it, it's a struggle. But I'll give you some examples. Now, since my father passed away last month and had been struggling with his cancer diagnosis for a while and some other things, I've had people express, their condolences to me, which is, again, there's an opportunity for gratitude. And how are you doing? Are you okay? All those things. So very grateful for that kind of support. And I could go into many, many, many examples of people helping. The Mr. Rogers, in times of struggle and fear, look for the helpers. And myself and my family have had numerous helpers over the last couple months. I just unthreaded my needle because I wasn't paying attention. That's one thing. But the other thing related to that is, people are, I don't know, sometimes I feel like, well, am I showing my grief or my, I don't know if you can. There's no right or wrong way to grieve. There's no right or wrong way to work through difficult times. Everybody is coming at it with different levels of past trauma, different types of mental health issues or neurodivergencies, all the things. But for me, and all of that is true for myself as well. But in regards to my dad's passing and finding gratitude in the helpers, in the people who stepped up, offered myself and my family, places to sleep while we were in Michigan, and food and counsel and all those very practical things and mental support things, stories of my dad's life, at times that he affected them. Those are so much gratitude there. So that's made, I don't know if it's made it, it has made it easier. But also, I can look back to my trips up there this summer and was driving up there. Well, I drove up there in April and I drove up there again in August. Then I flew back up there in August. Travel is never easy. Driving 14 hours by yourself is definitely not easy. The expenses of those trips have been a drain on me. And I could focus on that. I could be like, oh, my summer sucked because I had to do all these trips and I had to blah, blah, blah. And then on top of it, my dad died. But while all of that is true, instead I can focus on the beauty and the joy. Watching my dad ride that horse which I shared in my last video, 11 days before he passed on his 91st birthday. Talk about joy. Seeing his joy, seeing our joy, seeing the joy of the people who provided that opportunity for him. All those things. Is a gift that I will never be able to repay, but I will carry with me for the rest of my life. And that made everything else that happened before and after that in that situation worth it and easier to handle and cope with. Looking for the helpers, looking for those moments of beauty and gratitude. I think I'm kind of becoming a little repetitious here. Now that said, I don't like that stitch, but I don't care. Other things that, quote unquote, bad things that I could be focusing on, and maybe in some levels I should be focusing on, is this situation that I don't want to go into detail because I don't. But this somewhat unexpected financial situation that I find myself in. It's almost one of those bootstrap situations, but I feel like my boots might be getting a little worn out to expand on a metaphor, but I have chosen to go beyond the fear, even though it's there underneath the surface. For some reason, I don't know if there's like a thick spot in the batting right there, but that doesn't want to slide very well right there. Anyhow, and just put that power of connection, asking for some help, and relying on myself and my own gifts and talents to move me forward and through it. That's where I'm at with that situation. Through my connections, that sounds very highbrow. They're not, but my friends in the neighborhood, the people I have gotten to know in this community, I have some leads on some possibilities for maybe future employment or income opportunities. Some have already begun, some are in the works, and then add into that the skills that I have developed over the last few years, actually kind of over my whole lifetime, but there was a time where I didn't have to rely on them as much, of being thrifty and being frugal and putting away for a rainy day. And ironically, it hasn't rained here in a while, and we could really use some rain, but I feel like inside it's raining very hard right now for me. And so I have faith that I can get through this, and I will survive it. And I also dare to dream that when it's all said and done, maybe I'll come out of it not only okay, but perhaps even better than I ever imagined. But we'll see where life takes me on that one. Now, even though I have many other projects that I want to be working on, hand projects, and I want to share with y'all, I have allowed myself to be overtaken by this particular project. One, hyperfixation, and part of my ADHD. And once I figured it out, I want to keep going with it. That's part of it. for sure. The other part is that, like I have already expressed, this really is connecting me with my mother, who, as I have already said, is in the, I would say, end stages of dementia/Alzheimer's. And knowing that we're probably not going to have the gift of what I call a last good day. Dad had a last good day on his birthday with family, friends gathered around him to celebrate his life, and while he was still there, to know we were celebrating his life, and for him to celebrate doing something that he dearly loved. Mom's not going to have that, and it breaks my heart. I am not going to be able to take this quilt with me and sit with her and have her do something that meant a lot to her in her life, and a gift that she passed on to me and shared that with me one last time. I lost that opportunity. And now another little thing, another little shoe that dropped since my dad's passing is that my mother has also, on top of everything else, been diagnosed with a skin cancer, another different kind of skin cancer than what Dad had, and had the biopsies, pathology, all that stuff done, and is now going to start treatment for that. And because of her mental state and somewhat her physical state as well, it's going to be a very tricky situation. And again, I'm not up there to assist my siblings and to just sit with Mom or take her to these appointments or feel useful in any way. And if you are also a doer and a giver like myself, it's really hard for me. But next week, they begin 10 treatments in 10 days. They cannot do a surgical excising of the spot on her because of, one, the location, two, her, I guess would technically be called comorbidities of her age, her conditions as far as like her heart and things like that. They also would have to do it while she was semi-conscious, and because of her mental state and confusion and agitation, that won't work. She has negative reactions to anesthesia, a lot of things, just a lot of things. And because of her age and her situation, it's worrisome of how she's going to physically cope with these things. Now, add into it, she isn't really fully aware that Dad is gone, and there's really no good way to share that information because she may understand it in the moment and have a very hard reaction to it, as you can imagine. But also then the next time you're with her, she's not gonna remember, and or she'll randomly remember, and it will set her off into a very dark place, sad place. And if there isn't anyone there to help her, I mean, she's got her nursing staff and what have you, of course, and they're wonderful. But if you've been through this with someone. It's a hard space to be in, and I know my brother is struggling with it because he is been the one who's, at least this week, you know, with her the most, and she doesn't know who he is and all the things. Why am I telling you all this? Partly to just trauma dump, I guess. But that is why this particular project is top of my mind right now. This is my priority. So, what else do I have to do in this section? This one and this one, I guess. As you can imagine, this also means that 25 may have at least one or more trips to Michigan in store for me. And like I've already expressed, I'm currently on the job search and starting a new job and then having to leave for a period of time. Not always a good look for your new employer. Because of that, the financial situation that is required me to do this job search, I need the job to afford the trip. And then the trip, I don't know. You know, it's just, is this me catastrophizing? Probably a little bit. But, oops, where's my spoon? Poke my finger. So as you can imagine, making and posting videos I will say it's still high on my priority list, but it's just hard right now to do it, because while I want to sit and work on these things, adding in, I probably have complained about this in the past, trying to film them in an interesting way, good camera, good lighting, good all the things. I just, and then edit it and make it halfway decent is just more than I can physically and mentally handle a lot of. But I want to do it. So if you've been with me a while and you're still with me, thank you so much, and please just allow me to suck for a little while, suck more than usual. And if you're new here, and you're like, boy, her video quality, her lighting quality, her editing, her rambling is, I can't stand it. Well, okay, move on. You know, I can't help you there. I'm just going to do what I can, and I know that there are many of you that are very supportive and are here pretty much every time, and I want to continue to connect with you, because that's what for me, that's what it's about. It's just like the neighborhood and community that I have found here in Alabama. It's not about what they can do for me or anything like that. It's building that community, making those friendships, and reciprocating when I can, and having gratitude and thanks for the support. And oops, I was wrong. When I am incapable of anything more myself, and know that when I can, again, I will step up and repay in whatever way I can. And I guess far as it comes to this channel, it'll be with more and better inspiring and useful, hopefully, video content eventually. And I will try to continue to provide what I can when I can at this point. I think there's a big difference between excuses and reasons. A lot of people make a lot of excuses just because they don't want to do something or what have you. But then on the other hand, there are a lot of people who have very good reasons for maybe not following through on, what others would like them to do. Anyway, so I hope to be sharing reasons and not excuses with you at this point. All right, this section is done. Thank you for sitting with me while I did it. All right, I'm going to move my thing here and reposition my hoop and go on from there. Well, thank you for sitting and stitching with me a little bit today and listening to me ramble and sharing some of the things going on with me right now. And know that if you're going through a difficult time right now, you're not alone. I know I'm not alone. I'm not alone. I'm not alone in reality. I have friends, I have family, I have people who love me and support me. I know I'm not alone here in my YouTube universe because I know I have followers and subscribers and watchers who are also understanding and there for me. And so if you're also feeling alone, look for those helpers, like Mr. Rogers said. Look for, don't be afraid to ask for help and support. If it's calling a friend and saying, I'm feeling really lonely today, can we meet for a cup of coffee, cup of tea, a cocktail, whatever, dinner, some tacos. Tacos really can fix a lot of heartache. I don't know why I say this. So can fried chicken. Dessert, whatever it is, call a friend and say, I'm just feeling a little low. Would you be okay with getting together? And either I don't want to talk about it because I want to put that aside and have fun with a friend, or I need someone to listen right now and just be there for me. And let them decide what they want to do. Your friends know you, and don't. But the point is, I'm letting my brain jump. I'm sorry. Reach out and don't feel like a burden. I have learned this when I have reached out to people to ask for help. Many really want to help. I know, as being on the other side of it and seeing a friend or a neighbor or someone struggling, that finding a way to help them helps me as well. So don't be afraid to reach out to someone and just say, how can you, I need this right now. And it could be, like I said, I had friends who, that is not the needle I was using. Where is my needle? Here it is. That was an embroidery needle. It's very hard to quilt with an embroidery needle. Anyway, while you may feel like that you're being a burden to someone, you could also just be being an opportunity for them to show their love and to grow themselves in being useful in the world to you and to others. So And surround yourself with good people that are willing to be there for you. If you don't have people like that, then, it's a them problem and not a you problem. Okay, I'm not going to go too much more. I can go down some rabbit holes or some tangents, as you probably know. Anyhow, know you're not alone, and know that there are people out there who will help, are willing to help, want to help, most importantly, and you are not a burden, and you will get through this. And take care of yourself, whatever that looks like for you. So I'm going to tell you a little story about how that looked like for me last week. And, the classic self-care is a bubble bath and a facial and a manicure and a bottle of wine. And sometimes that is my self-care. But the other night, I realized that I was providing myself with some very important self-care. And this is how it looked like for me. The day before, I had changed my sheets and put clean sheets on my bed that had been dried outside in the sun. So they were smooth and they were clean and they were fresh and they were just all the things I love, because I love line-dried sheets. It's a me thing. Well, I think it's a lot of people thing, but so that was my first step in self-care, was the day before I had taken the time to do this chore, but it was a chore that brought me joy. Then that day, I had done more laundry, and I had done towels and some other things and some white clothes, and I had dried my nightgown also in the sunshine on the line. So that night I'm getting ready for bed. I'm doing my skincare, which is another little bit of self-care, which is more of the classic self-care. I have been very diligent about flossing my teeth and doing my skincare. Of course, with two parents who have had or are having issues with skin cancer, skincare is kind of risen to the top, and so wear your sunscreen. But anyhow, I had done my nightly hygienic chores, if you will, and slipped on this nightgown that had been on the line all day. And as it came over my head, I could smell the sunshine on it, and I can't describe the smell of sunshine, and I don't think there's a perfumer in the world that can ever replicate that smell of fresh cotton or linen dried on a line in the sunshine, but it's a thing. And this nightgown is a nightgown I made last summer for myself, and it's made of a beautiful, lightweight, but not like tissue weight, but a just perfectly weighted white linen, 100% linen, that every time I launder it, it gets a little softer. And I made it out of just a basic nightgown pattern. It's nothing fancy. It's very simple. But when I made it, I took special care to all the seams are French seams. So there's, it's finished beautifully. It has some pin tucks in the front, so it fits beautifully. It has some little ruffles around the armholes and the neck hole. I could go get it and show it to you, but just painting a picture for you. Anyhow, it is beautiful and beautifully well made, and it's in a way, it's luxurious, but it's not luxurious in a classic sense of it is this expensive, fancy nightgown. It's a very utilitarian, simple nightgown, but it's made in such a high-quality way out of high-quality materials that it is a bit decadent for me. And it just, as I put it on and climbed into bed, I just felt such a sense of peace and a tiny bit of, well, not a tiny bit, a good bit of self-gratitude that I gave myself this gift. I gave myself the gift of clean sheets, and I gave myself the gift of this nightgown that is a little bit of luxury without being classically luxurious. And I got thinking to myself that this is what I have created for myself. This is the life. It's a perfect, a very good metaphor for the life that I've created for myself. I value quality. I value comfort. I value simple beauty, finding beauty and joy in simple things, and knowing that I can provide those things for myself, that I don't need to look to extravagant shopping trips or gifts from others. While nice, I don't need it. I don't require it to find joy. And that finding that and enjoying the solitude of my own comfortable big bed with clean sheets and a beautiful, comfortable, well-made, quality nightgown that smells like sunshine was what I needed in that moment. And I needed to just take a second or a minute to appreciate it. And while it's important to express gratitude, we wrote thank you cards to many people, to hopefully everyone that helped us during the time of my dad's passing. That's very important. But also finding a way when you're in the midst of the swamp and you don't see the edge and you're worried about the gators under the water that might bite you or eat you alive, and the mosquitoes and gnats that are flying around your head are driving you crazy. That's how I felt lately in many times. But just taking that moment that night to appreciate what I had built for myself and what I had surrounded myself, and that kind of gratitude is important too. So anyway, I'm going to get back to stitching. I am going to get back to journaling a lot lately, and hopefully get back to some videos when I can make them, as I can make them in any form. So I really, third point of gratitude, I have so much gratitude for all of you and for this opportunity and this medium in order to share not only what is important to me with my stitching and my art and my creative life, but to share and build a small community here on YouTube that appreciates what I have to offer and is there to support me in many ways, and at whatever level. So I'm going to try to continue to repay that gift that you give me by expressing my gratitude. That's the simplest thing I can do, but also continue to provide content as best I can. So I think I've when I go to edit this, maybe I'll have to edit out a lot of repetitious stuff, but anyway, peace out, love you lots, and take care of yourself, and watch out for deer.